Welcome to today's lecture. So, in the previous class, we have seen how data has to be collected, like how a survey has to be organized, and then how data is analyzed. Then the study area, zoning. Then what are the types and source of data? That is, you have the primary data, and from where do you get the data? That is nothing but the source. Then you have the secondary data, secondary type of data, and what are the sources of the secondary data? Okay, and also we have seen different surveys or different interviews, how survey can be done, like roadside interview, home interview, commercial vehicle interview, taxi survey, tag survey, origin destination studies, etc. So in today's lecture, we will be seeing sampling techniques. Then what do you mean by expansion factor? What are accuracy checks and use of secondary sources? So sampling technique is one of the important topic or important, method in any research, in any data collection. So sampling technique is, what do you understand by sampling technique? Like you have the entire population. Okay, so maybe if we consider your class, we have to study how online classes or how effective online classes. So we have to take the data. We have to collect the data to understand whether it is effective or not. So you have the entire, maybe we will consider entire Bangalore. So, or let's consider students under VTU. So it might not be possible to reach out all the students, right? So there should be some sampling technique. Like if we say that there are 10,000 students, then there are 10,000 students, and it's not easy to collect the data from all the 10,000 students, right? So you have to prepare a sample. So this 10,000 students is nothing but the population. So from the population, you should be having a sample, which this sample that you choose should represent the entire population. Is that clear? So from this, for this 10,000, based on the time that you have, based on the the money or the budget that you have, then based on the skills and the facilities that you have, you will choose a sample size. So if you have enough time, you can go for the entire 10,000. But if you have very less time, and if you have the budget is also limited, then you might consider the sample to be only 1,000. That means out of 1,000, you might be analyzing the 1,000 the students, and that will be the sample. So how we choose the sample? That is nothing but sampling technique. So that can be probability sampling or non-probability sampling. So probability sampling, you understand what probability, right? It involves a random selection. So you apply some statistical inferences, like you apply the probability theory, and then you choose the sample. Okay, it also random selection. Non-probability sampling is, it's actually non-random. It's not based on probability theory, but based on several convenience or other criteria, and that will allow you to easily collect the data. Okay, so that is the difference between the probability sampling and non-probability sampling. So in probability sampling, you will be considering probability theory by using some statistical inferences, whereas in non-probability sampling, it's not based on any probability theory, but only based on the convenience or other criteria. Like how easily you can collect the data, or how easily people might respond to the survey, etc. So before understanding the sampling techniques, you should know the difference between the population and the sample. So if I consider this is the entire population. So from this, you will be preparing a sample. So population is nothing but it's an entire group that you want to draw conclusions about. So when I am talking in terms of the effectiveness of online uh, teaching, so then the population will be the entire students who are enrolled in VTU, right? Suppose if I have to, if you have to understand the pattern of food consumption in a certain area, so that entire geographical area will be considered. Suppose you have to analyze the effect of mobile phone or effect of social media on the youth, then age will be the population. Like you will be considering a group of youngsters or group of people from the age of like 70 or 15 to 25. So that will be a population based on income. So if you have to understand, the study of, how the ownership of a house is depending on the income. So you will be considering certain income group and many other characteristics, like it can be on based on the gender. Like you may have to study the influence, or study the number of mm, researchers who are ladies, or number of female researchers, number of women entrepreneurs. So in that case, the population will be only women, right? You will be considered, right? If you have to study the pattern of how women entrepreneurs are coming up, you need not consider the male entrepreneurs there. You will be considering the entire population of women, and in that you will be studying what will be the women entrepreneurs. Okay, so this, it's not only on the perspective of urban transport planning, but this is important for any of the research or any of the study that you might be doing. Now, sample is nothing but it's a group of individuals that you will be collecting the data from. So though you have the entire population, you might sometimes it might be possible. If I have to understand how the effectiveness of UTP classes for 2017 batch of BMSIT, the population is only 67. So I can analyze the data from all the 67, right? But if I have to understand how UTP subject is influencing all the students across India, the population is really huge, right? So in that case, you have the population and then you have the sample. So this is again, you have the population, you sample, that sampling techniques will be discussed in the coming slides. You prepare the sample, and from the sample, you have an inference about the whole population. So before we start with the sampling, it's important that you know what sampling frame is. So it is actually, once you have the population, you should know how to prepare the sample. So this is actually a list of individuals from which a sample can be prepared. Okay, so it should be including the entire population. So entire population will be included. So can anyone give me an example for sampling frame? Sampling frame is actually a list. So I have given you so many examples of surveying and so many examples of sampling population. So can anyone give me an example for a sampling frame? Anyone? An example for sampling frame. It should be a list that contains the entire population. So if I have to, do a survey in your classroom, okay, maybe, how effective certain subject is, or how or what is your orientation towards GATE exam, or what is your orientation towards engineering service exam. So your classroom is the population. So what will be the sampling frame? Anyone?
All the students in the class, ma'am.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good. That's a population. But sampling frame will be the list that I will be getting. So I can take out the class list, right? That will be the sampling frame. Okay. So maybe if we have to study the pattern of how the students are oriented towards GATE and VTU, then how will we do? What will be the sampling frame? Population will be the entire students who are enrolled. So sampling frame is the list of students who are enrolled. It's only the list, or it's the actual list of the individuals from where you have to draw the sample. Is that clear? So though the technical term seems to be same, but this is it. Okay. So if I have to take the population, maybe let's consider BMSIT scenario. So the current students at BMSIT who are enrolled are the sample, or sorry, are the population. Okay, or the sample universe. So sample frame is the list of all the students who are currently enrolled. And that will be provided by whom? Provided by the office, right? By the academic section will be providing me the sampling frame. Now sample will be from this entire students, I will be randomly choosing maybe 100 students or 200 students. Okay. So now this is important. You have probability sampling methods and non-probability sampling method. So in probability sampling method, you have simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, and cluster sampling. So you have to understand what all these are. And then after this, I'll show you 4 to 5 slides, and then you have to answer what type of sampling is that. So it's clear from the diagram itself. In simple random sampling, randomly, you will be choosing the So this is the entire population. Okay, so from the entire population in simple random sampling, you will be randomly choosing one of the sample. Okay, so if you have to choose five, okay, so you're randomly choosing one, two, three, four, and five. So the problem with what might be the problem with simple random sampling, or what might be the advantage of simple random sampling? Anyone?
Problem will be you may have to repeat some people. You will not know.
Sorry. Yes, Yaksha,
Problem,
tell me.
ma'am.
Yeah, what might be the
Problem.
problem?
You pick one person, you have already taken the data, and again you by mistake take it again because you wouldn't have noted down that you've already
Yeah,
taken this
yes,
person.
yes. That is again in probability theory you would have studied, right? With replacement and without replacement. So if you're doing
Yes.
without replacement, then that will happen, right? That's a good point. And one more thing is there is a chance that your data will be biased. Why? Why would the data be biased?
Biased meaning, ma'am? I didn't get it.
Yeah, biased meaning like if I have to study the performance of students in certain subject. Okay, so in your classroom. So what I will do is you have 67 students. So if I'm randomly choosing, I might be choosing the students who are actually performing well in that subject. So their
Oh, yes.
opinion will be different, right?
Yes.
So it will
Yes.
be biased. That means when I'm randomly choosing, if I don't know the students, I will be randomly choosing. If I'm a newcomer here, if I'm a new faculty here, I don't know anyone. So I might be choosing the students who are really poor in the subject, or who are not able to understand the subject. Or I might be choosing the people who are doing exceptionally good in the subject due to some reason. So that will
Yes,
not give
ma'am.
me a correct data. Okay, so that is what is biasing means. Biased, the data will be biased. So here in simple random sampling, there is probability that biasing can occur. Okay, and as Yaksha told, the data might be replicated. Okay, or the sample might be replicated. Then what might be systematic sampling? Looking at the diagram.
We
After a
choose a
particular order.
Yeah, good. You choose some particular order. So here you can see you're choosing the second one. And next is this is one, two, three, four, five. Okay, then again you choose after two. Like you have a gap of two. So you systematically choose. Okay. So what might be the advantage or disadvantage here? Or what might be the observations for this?
Advantages, we know that whom we are selecting at particular order
Okay, yes.
at a particular interval.
Yeah.
Disadvantage, I don't know.
and that bias thing will
Disadvantage
not
maybe we
happen there.
can't group the people.
Yes, you have to understand how you give the number. Okay, like if you it will be difficult for you to understand whether, yeah, again the data might be biased, right? And there might be like the data manipulation might also be existing. So can you give an example for the systematic, any one systematic sample? Anyone?
Even numbers.
So here it need not be always the second or the third one. So what actually can be done is in your classroom, we have 67 students, right? So I will be, if I have to do the study for 67 students, I will be calling out like the row US and 5, then 10, then 15, then 20, 25, etc. So that's the usual pattern that will be used for systematic sampling. Okay, but here there is a problem. So when I am providing by US and Ys, it's fine. There is no bias. But if I arrange the class students based on the CGPA, okay, and then I'm choosing the systematic sample means what will happen? There will be some biasing that will be coming in the data, right? The first few might be the toppers, or if I'm choosing only those population. Okay, so that can happen. Okay, so if if like the 67 is at least fine, but if I'm doing the study entire across BMSIT to understand the variation of CGPA due to some factors like CGPA and the online study. And if the data that has been provided by each department, so we might not be taking the entire population, each department gives you 10 good students, and ISC department also gives me good 10 good students. So the data is quite biased, right? So how the numbering is being provided is crucial here. So here, if I'm going by USN, there is very less chance of bias. Okay. Next, we have stratified sampling. Any idea what stratified sampling will be?
Group the different category of people and then
Yeah. So you group the different category of people. Okay. So here I have chosen five, like by skipping two in between. Here we have randomly chosen five. In stratified sample, you group them based on some categories. Like in your classroom, I can group girls and boys. So out of 65, let's take the class strength to be 60. So there are 20 girls and 40 boys. Okay. So if I have to get five, so what best I can do is I can choose uh, two from girls and maybe three from boys. Okay, so here you can see the number in this category is less. So we are choosing two here, and here the number is more. So we choose three here. Okay, so if there is now in an office, there are 1,000 employees and 800 are female and 200 are male. And you have to choose 100 as a sample size. Okay, so in that case, you will be choosing 80 female and 20 male. So proportion to the population. What is the proportion to the population? There's some conversion. So that is not important for this subject point of view. But if you're doing a research, or if you're going in for research after your engineer UG, then you will go into more detail on how the population or how the ratio has to be fixed. Is that clear? So then we have the cluster sample. So in cluster sample here, these are formed into like clusters, maybe the geographic area. Okay, so it can be like the same office. If I take an office and they have to choose 100 people or 100 from the 1,000 employees across office, but they have five different offices. Like, they might be having one office at location A, location B, C, D, and D. So in order to study the 100 or to make a sample of 100, they randomly choose any two offices. Okay. So here what we did, we chose one sample, or we chose based on the proportion, we chose people from different strata, right? These are nothing but strata. But here the entire cluster is being chosen. So is that clear? Okay. So here what we do is the entire population is being divided into subgroup. Okay. And each subgroup should be having what? Should be having similar characteristics to the whole sample. Okay, so instead of choosing individual from each subgroup, the entire subgroup is being surveyed. So here, the advantage is when you have a large and the population is quite dispersed, then this method is good. But here again, there is a problem. Why? Because if there is substantial difference between these clusters, okay, so if I divide the cluster based on income, and they are high income and they are low income, and then I have to study the influence of certain parameter based on the income. And if I choose high income people, obviously my data will be biased, right? So there should not be substantial differences of features between the clusters. So what data that you're going to study, that we have already seen in the first few lectures, right? How you have to define the survey. So based on the type of survey only, you will be defining the population. Okay. So this is again whatever I have explained now, simple random sampling. So you have an equal chance of being selected. And in systematic sampling, it is similar to simple random sampling, but it's slightly easier to conduct. So you give them some numbers and then you randomly choose a number at some regular intervals. So stratified sampling is, population is divided to subpopulation that may differ in some important ways. So you form the subgroup and then you choose the sample. In cluster sampling, the entire population is divided to subgroup, and each subgroup should have similar characteristics. And instead of sampling from the subgroup, the entire subgroup is being randomly selected. So the use of probability sampling is the sample bias will be reduced to some extent. You cannot make the sample bias to be zero, but it is reduced. And you have a diverse population, and this can be used for diverse population. and to an extent it creates an accurate sample. So we'll see what is the difference between accuracy and precision. So the advantages are it's cost effective and involves lesser degree of judgment. You need not judge. So in non-probability, what happens is you choose without any statistical theory. It is based on your convenience. So you should be having some extent of judgment how you choose this data. But here, since statistical theory comes into picture, lesser degree of judgment is required, and it's comparatively easy. It's less time consuming, and can be even done by non-technical person because there is some steps that has to be followed, right? So based on that, they choose, and you get a sample representative of the population. But the disadvantages, there is chances that some specific class of sample are only selected, and it's a redundant and monotonous work because there is no judgment and right, there's nothing creative to be done there. It is based on the probability theory. Okay, so now you tell me what kind of sampling technique is this. So if you want to quickly recap, you can recap once again. We have simple random sampling, systematic sampling, simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, and cluster sampling. Fine. So Aishwarya, what type of sampling is this?
Ma'am, the second one, I don't remember the name.
Yeah,
Sorry.
what is that? Is it the second one? What do you mean by the second one?
Systematic.
Yeah, that one. Systematic.
It is systematic sampling technique. Very good. You understood? So here you're choosing the second, then the fourth. That means there is every alternate you're skipping the sample and then you're choosing. Okay, good. So next, Ravi Teja, what type of sampling is this? Ravi Teja. Yeah, what type of
Yes, ma'am.
sampling is this?
Uh, Probability.
Okay, that is the title that I've given. Okay, anyone who can help Ravi Teja here?
Random sampling.
Yeah, it is random sampling. It's simple random sampling. Okay, good. You're just randomly choosing. There is it's not subdivided into any group, right? So this is simple random sampling. Okay. So next, Darshan J. Good, Ravi Teja. Darshan J. Darshan J. Okay, so Gaurav.
Systematic sampling, ma'am.
Yeah, it is systematic sampling, right? You are skipping the two and then you are doing the sampling. Good, very good. Okay, so next we have Hemant. What type of sampling is this? Hemant?
Ma'am, no idea, ma'am.
No idea why?
Ma'am, cluster. Yeah, cluster, ma'am.
It's a
Cluster.
cluster. No, this is not cluster.
Stratified, ma'am.
Yeah, it is stratified sampling. Good, good.
Yeah,
So
okay.
here
Thank
you divide the entire population into different strata, and from that you choose three from this strata and three from this strata. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here, this one. Jagdish.
Systematic,
Jagdish.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
This is no, everything is given in the diagram itself. It's not systematic planning. Can anyone help him here? Jagdish, look at the diagram carefully. Zoom it
cluster,
and you
ma'am.
might see. No. Gaurav, yeah, already answered. Jeevan, can you help Jagdish?
Ma'am, cluster sampling, ma'am.
Is it cluster? I don't know why you people are saying it again cluster. No. Manjusha, this is not cluster sampling. Okay, you might be having an impression that I'm giving it in an order. No.
Is it
Left there is
stratified?
written scatter, right is written random. So confusion. Random or stratified?
No, but the population is divided into something, right? What is it? So here, if you zoom and see, it is the population is divided into strata, right? And then from each strata, you're choosing one. So what is the population? Manjusha.
Stratified.
Ma'am,
Yeah, what type of sampling is this?
ma'am, first I thought it was cluster, but when you gave the explanation, I got clarity that it's stratified.
Yeah, very good. It is stratified sampling. Good, right? If it is cluster, you will be choosing this entire cluster, right? But from each strata, you're choosing one. Is that clear? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have this maybe Ananya, can you answer this? What type of sampling is this? Yeah, what type of sampling is this? Ananya. Sorry?
Cluster sampling.
Yeah, very good. It's cluster sampling, right? So here the entire cluster is being chosen, right? Okay, good. So next, one thing for the exam point of view, when any of the sampling technique is being asked, it's always better you cite with some example. So if you're not able to draw well, you can just use a black pen with some maybe something like a triangle, another one a circle, another one a square, and then you can create a sample and then show. Okay, so that will it's quite impressive and explanatory than whatever you write. Okay. So next we have non-probability sampling method. So this is, this surveying has been done mainly based on the convenience. Okay, so individual are selected based on some non-random criteria. And as Yaksha had told, there is chance of not all the individual being included. Okay, but this method is easier and cheaper, but there is a high risk of sampling bias, right? Because we are not making use of any statistical inferences about the whole population. Okay, so now we will see one by one. So in convenience sampling, what happens is, so suppose if okay, anyone in the class have to study, I'm asking you, okay, by today evening, you please provide me some data on how the traffic movement is in a public transport sector. So what might be the convenient sample to you? Can you go and do the survey entire Bangalore? No. So the convenience survey, if you're in college, the convenience sample will be just outside the campus, right? So you might be choosing a stretch from maybe Avalahalli to Puttanhalli. So that might be the convenient sample for you, right? Though the population is the entire BMTCs across Bangalore, but the convenient sample is the in the most accessible to the sample which is more accessible to the researcher. Okay, so this is quite easy and inexpensive. Okay, so what might be the disadvantage here? What might be the disadvantage here? It's not representative, right? Is it representative? No, you're just considering the buses that are moving from Puttanhalli to Avalahalli, not the entire population. Okay, so this will be highly biased and it's not at all representative of the population. In voluntary response, what might be voluntary response sampling? What might be voluntary? Because many of you would have done voluntary response sampling by now. What is voluntary response sampling?
They know the data and they'll give a response for them, for the person. They know the data, ma'am. They give the data to the sampling.
No. Can you give me with an example? It will be easier for you to explain with an example. Any example can take time. Maybe with an example, can you try to explain Vikas? Vikas, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Can you try to
Maybe
explain?
those blue persons know the traveling route of from Puttainalli to some Elanka Newton, and they give the response to that guy who is looking for the information of sampling. Is that right, ma'am?
Yeah, to some extent. So here, what it's to some extent it's right. So the very good example that you can cite is it's a public online survey. That means those who are voluntary or those who are ready to respond will be responding, right? So you might be if you download an app or if you are if you have used a product, all of you would have purchased something from Amazon or any online platform. It's not important that you should provide a response, right? So in the similar way, there might be people who might be doing research and they will be sending you some questionnaire. So it is not important that everyone should respond, right? So it is based on how the participants are directly who are contacting them, the people who are volunteering to be participating for the survey. Okay, so if I come to your class in 67, I will ask at least, and I want I will share one form. It's not compulsory, but you have to provide me the data. It's not important that all the 67 students should respond to the survey, right? It's not all the 67 should be the sample. So only those who are are volunteered to do or who are willing to do will give me the data. Until and unless it's not compulsory. Being compulsory is different, right? So here again, what happens is, but the people who will be like, if I ask you like how the student activities are in your college. So, and it's a voluntary response system. So that means maybe 5 or 10 in your class would have responded. So those 5 or 10 who would have responded are people who already have a strong opinion about the system, right? So that will be again biased. So those who are not at all participating or not at all interested will not be giving any response. But those who are actively participating will have a strong opinion. So that will be again biased. So that's the problem with voluntary response sample. In purposive sample, what happens is the researcher will be using his or her judgment to select a sample. Okay. So if you want to understand the opinions or experiences of female students in the campus of this age group, so you might be choosing only that sample. You will not take the entire people and then try to analyze. Okay. So here, based on the purpose, you yourself will be approaching the people. Okay. Then snowball sampling means, see, here, suppose you are going to collect the data. You approach person number one. Person number one will give lead to another two or three. Like, I have a survey form with me. I give the survey form to Vikas. Okay, and I inform Vikas, you please, circulate this to your circle of people. So he might be circulating it to another three. And those three might be circulating it to another five. So similarly, I give another form to Yaksha. So she might give it to another three, and those three might give to another three. So here the data will be coming. So it is similar to snowball. Okay. So here, you are suppose you have to study the experience of people. Oh yeah, okay. People who, or people who are homeless in the city. Okay, due to some reason they don't have a home. So what might happen is I find a person who might be homeless. I will be giving this data form to them, and they will be giving it to the people who are again homeless. So the data, the probability sum, the data that you will be getting collected will be only from the homeless people in that way. Okay. So again, if I want to understand the influence of IPL on the individual, so I will be giving the form to one student or one individual. Now that individual will be giving this form to people who know something about IPL, right? That way. So this is again, I have explained what non-probability sampling methods are. So here again, a hypothesis has to be created. That means, what is your expectation? Like you are, studying the influence of public transport. So you should be having a hypothesis that people are not depending on BMTC due to so and so reason. That is your hypothesis. I hope you know what a hypothesis and a theory is, right? So first you have a hypothesis. Then you collect the data, you conduct the experiment, and then you validate your hypothesis. Okay. So you should be having a hypothesis. Then there is when you have budget and time constraints, you'll be using this technique, and it's for exploratory research. So the types of research and all, I think maybe this semester you might be having a workshop on what are the different types of research. Then advantages is it's cost effective, and disadvantages it has excessive dependency on judgment, because I should know what method I have to use or what judgment I have to use if I have to choose data, right? So, okay. Then it should focus on the simplicity rather than the effectiveness. Okay, so with this, we are done with the type of sampling techniques. Now we will see expansion factor. So once you get the population, you conduct the survey. That is only done for that typical sample. Now expansion factor should be used to amplify the data to represent the total population of the zone. Is that clear? So this is done by the help of an expansion factor. So this is defined as the ratio of total number of household addressed in the population to that of the surveyed. So here expansion factor Fi is given by A by B minus D, where A is the total number of household in the original population list. Like if I take the entire 67 in your class, so A will be 67. Okay. And from the 67, I decided to take survey only from 30 students, maybe 30, who are from different states. Okay, so my criteria is to understand the influence of, some factors that are there for people who are coming from outside Karnataka. So 30 is my sample. And out of 35 have not responded. Okay, so 30 minus 5. So it will be 67 divided by 30 minus 5. That is the expansion factor. Okay. So numericals related to that we will be solving in module 3. Now accuracy check. So here whenever the term accuracy comes, you have precision term also coming up. So what is the difference between this accuracy and precision? So here the dartboard or the bull's eye of the dartboard is the target. So here what happens is, what is this? Is this accurate or precise?
Precise.
This is
Precise.
This is precise. Then what is this then? Anyone? Yes, anyone? Okay, I think I have to call out the names to get the responses. Okay, what is B? Uttam? Uttam? Vivek?
Like low accuracy, high precision. Second one.
Second one is?
Low accuracy, more precision.
Yeah, precision means you again and again reach the same point. This is precise, but it is not accurate. Accuracy is when it is at the bullseye. Okay, so this is precision. Here it is neither accurate nor precise. Okay, because so here we are neither close. One is close to the bullseye, but next is again close. But if all the points were together, then we can say that it's not accurate, but it is precise. Here it is neither accurate nor precise. But B is not accurate. Accuracy is if all the data are at the or near to the bullseye or at the bullseye. So here it is not accurate, but it is precise. What about C?
Highly accurate but less precise.
Yeah, it is accurate. Accurate, why? Because all the four are at the same distance from the bull's eye, right? So here you can again ask, but here see, one dart is at some distance, second dart is at some distance, third is again at some distance, and fourth is again at some other distance from the bull's
It's
eye. Okay?
accurate but not precise, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, it is accurate but not precise. Why is it accurate? Because all the four attempts the person was making, he was at the somewhat close to the bull's eye, right? So this is accurate. It's almost at the same distance, but it's not precise. If it is precise, all the 4 points should be more or less in the same area. What about D?
High
It is both.
accuracy.
It's
Yeah, it
both.
is both accurate and precise. Good. Okay, so you understood the difference between accuracy and precise, right? So the accuracy check in surveying is really important because it will be showing how close is the sample to the true population value. Okay, it's how close the sample statistic will be to the population parameter. So, as the sample size increases, what will happen? The accuracy will also be increasing, right? Okay, so with this, I will wind up today's class.